The second month of Year 3 arrived with surprisingly little bloodshed, which immediately made everybody nervous. Inside the Eclipse games, quiet periods rarely stayed quiet for long. The remaining contestants had changed dramatically. The old solo players were nearly gone. The small factions had collapsed. The weak alliances had failed. What remained were only three forces: Sparkle Doom, Darius Voss, and a newly formed faction calling themselves 2 Worlds, 19 Clans. The name immediately became a joke across half the galaxy, not because it was threatening, because it was ridiculous. The faction itself consisted of nearly every remaining contestant who wasn't part of Sparkle Doom and wasn't named Darius. Their plan sounded brilliant on paper. Survive, work together, kill Darius, eliminate Sparkle Doom, become the last faction standing, then surrender both planets to whichever member had the highest kill count. Afterward, the champion would supposedly split everything fairly. It sounded wonderful, until somebody thought about it, which unfortunately happened during a sponsor challenge. The challenge itself wasn't particularly important, one of those sponsor events designed more for entertainment than danger. The faction had been required to complete a series of ridiculous obstacle courses while carrying glowing power cores through a constantly changing arena. Nobody was struggling. Nobody was failing, which annoyed the spectators, especially the members of 2 Worlds 19 Clans. They'd gathered specifically to heckle Sparkle Doom. For 20 straight minutes they shouted insults, complaints, predictions of failure, general stupidity. Plum finally snapped. "Oh, shut up." The crowd immediately laughed. One of the faction members shouted back, "You'll be laughing when we're the last faction standing." Plum pointed dramatically. "Your faction name sounds like somebody lost a bet." The audience erupted. The contestant immediately went red. Aurora jumped in. "Also, your plan is stupid." The crowd laughed harder. The contestant folded his arms. "How?" Aurora looked genuinely confused. "Well, there's 19 clans. Yeah, and only 2 planets." Silence. The man blinked. Aurora continued. "So who's getting the extra 17 clans?" The audience collectively lost their minds. Even the contestants behind him started laughing. The poor bloke actually turned around, counting, mentally processing, then looking increasingly concerned. By the time the challenge ended, half the faction was arguing amongst themselves. Plum nearly fell over laughing. Even across the stars, people watching from home were losing it, on prime reach. Kenny and Celine watched the replay. Kenny laughed so hard he nearly spilled his drink. Celine wasn't much better. "She's your daughter." "Definitely. No question. Absolutely." Neither of them stopped laughing for several minutes. Later that evening, Sparkle Doom returned home. The mood felt lighter than it had in weeks. Kale's betrayal still hurt. Darius's revelations still lingered. But for the first time since everything happened, they felt normal again. Then they walked through the front doors and immediately froze. The central display glowed blue. Plum pointed, "No." Ellie pointed, "No." Aurora pointed, "No." Mira looked up, then smiled. Phone day. The room exploded. Normally phone day meant excitement. This one felt different. Everyone was trying very hard not to think about it. Especially Mira. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody had to. The last phone day had changed her life forever. The memory still haunted her, even now. Especially now. Aurora noticed immediately. So did Pines. The old Reaper quietly settled beside her while everyone prepared their calls. No pressure, no questions, just company, which somehow helped. Aurora disappeared first, as usual. Ellie followed, then Plum. One by one. Private calls, private conversations, private moments. Mira remained in the lounge, Pines beside her, the city lights glowing through the windows. Neither spoke much. The silence wasn't uncomfortable anymore. Then suddenly Aurora appeared, almost running. "Mira." Mira blinked. "What?" Aurora smiled through suspiciously watery eyes. "Come on." Mira frowned. "What happened?" Aurora grabbed her hand. "They want to talk to you." The room suddenly felt very quiet. Pines looked up, immediately understanding something was happening. Mira looked nervous. Aurora simply smiled, then led her down the hallway, toward her room. The communicator screen filled the far wall. Kenny sat on one side, Celine beside him. Neither looked particularly composed. Actually, both looked awful. Mira immediately noticed. "Is everything okay?" The moment she said it, both of them broke, not dramatically, not loudly, just tears. Instant tears. The kind parents tried hiding and completely failed to. Mira froze, confused. Aurora sat beside her, smiling softly. Kenny wiped at his eyes. Failed. Tried again. Failed again. Celine wasn't doing much better. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Kenny finally managed it. Thank you. Mira blinked. What? Thank you. His voice cracked. The words barely came out. Mira immediately looked uncomfortable. You don't need to thank me. Yes. Kenny nodded firmly. We do. Selina gathered herself, barely, then smiled through tears. You saved our daughter. Mira felt her chest tighten. Aurora quietly squeezed her hand. The room fell silent again. Then Selina looked toward Kenny. Kenny looked toward Celine. Something passed between them. A decision. One they'd clearly already made. Celine turned back toward Mira. We've been discussing something. Mira suddenly looked terrified. Aurora looked excited, which somehow made it worse. Celine smiled softly. We want to adopt you. The room stopped. Mira genuinely thought she'd misheard. What? Celine's smile grew. We want to adopt you. Then she corrected herself. No. Her eyes filled again. We want you as our daughter. Mira broke, instantly. No hesitation, no resistance, no defense. Just tears. Aurora immediately wrapped an arm around her. Celine continued. If you return to Prime Reach tomorrow, her voice softened, you'd already have a place to stay, a future, a home, protection, family. Then her expression became serious. You risked your life for Aurora. The room went still, and for a moment. Her voice cracked. You thought we'd abandon you for it. Tears streamed down Mira's face. Celine shook her head. Never. Not ever. Kenny finally leaned forward, his own eyes red so. He smiled. What do you say, daughter? The word shattered whatever composure Mira had left. Daughter, not ally, not citizen, not Reach. Daughter. She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She looked toward Aurora, then toward Kenny, then Celine, then back again. The tears wouldn't stop. Finally, barely above a whisper. Okay. Aurora immediately started crying. Again. Celine started crying harder. Kenny completely gave up pretending he wasn't crying. The entire room dissolved into emotional chaos. Several minutes later, everyone had migrated into Aurora's room. The faction, the Reach family, everybody. Nobody cared anymore. The call had become a celebration. Plum had somehow acquired snacks. Nobody knew how. Nobody questioned it. Ellie sat beside Mira. Aurora refused to let go of her. Pines watched the entire thing quietly. A small smile hidden behind his drink. Then Kenny casually dropped another bombshell. Oh. Everyone looked up. I'll have the Emperor make it official after the games. Silence. Mira blinked. What? Kenny looked confused. What? The games aren't over. Correct. There are still contestants alive. Also correct. Mira stared. What if we lose? Kenny laughed. Actually laughed. Then pointed toward Aurora, toward Ellie, toward Plum, toward Pines, then finally toward Mira. I'm looking at Sparkle Doom. The room smiled. Kenny grinned. We're already planning the paperwork. Everyone burst out laughing. Even Mira. For the first time in a very long time. It felt easy. Natural. Safe. Like she'd finally found somewhere she belonged. Not because she earned it. Not because she won it, because somebody chose her. Across the room, Pines quietly raised his glass. Nobody noticed. Except Aurora. The old Reaper smiled. The young Reach smiled back. And somewhere beyond the stars, the future suddenly looked a whole lot brighter.